welcome all. This is going to be a really energetic panel because we have curated for you the top experts on this subject. And first I want to welcome...
You know, we have them behind you.
Yeah. No, first, I want to welcome Romain. He's the VP Engineering at Criteo and head of Criteo AI Lab. Prior, he taught computers to read handwriting. And did you know that after 13 years, there's still a line of code at Criteo being used every day, written by Romain, saying, temporary, replace by better, ASAP. Romain. And then we have Andreea. She's part of Microsoft's corporate and external legal team, working on digital and green transformation, very important. And before she worked at the Romanian Ministry of Social Affairs. And did you know about Andreea? That she takes her time to dive into the new tech. She patiently waits until all the reviews are in. Andreea. And last, but certainly not least, my fellow Saskia. And Saskia van Uelen is working in the ICT sector for over 25 years now. She is the digital skills leader for Belgium and representing the European Commission. She focuses heavily on ensuring the synergy between different generations in the workforce. And she is a mother of 5. Saskia, welcome.
Well, Saskia, I leave it to you. Have a great session.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Well, certainly, again, welcome all. We have heard from some true specialists how important the digital advertising is and that it is an engine for economic growth. We also know that it is key for companies to digitize their businesses, large and small. We also know that our industry is an incubator for developing digital skills in the next generation. We, as an industry, help talent to be future-ready for jobs at the intersection of AI, data, but also very important, creative. And today we're going to talk about how we can also take better care of our talent. We need to nurture it. We need to step away from the sink or swim mentality. So let's learn from this expert panel. Let's start off with Romain at the far side. From your perspective, what is the most pressing challenge Europe faces when it comes to digital skills and to labor market transformation?
Yeah, it's a very important question because anything that is created needs creators, first and foremost. And one thing that we see in general is the fact that talent needs to be developed, especially on something that is so new as AI in general and AI literacy in particular. We do have the chance in Europe of having excellent universities, excellent schools, engineering schools, and so on. It's a very, very strong asset. But we need also to ensure that this knowledge about AI is not only about building the AI, it's also about using it. This is what we've seen from our previous 2 speakers. So the question is, how do we go from having experts who build the technology to having people who actually understand both enough of the technology to use it, but also understand how it can be applied to their own area of specialty, so that we have a cascading effect of understanding AI and then understanding how to best leverage it.
Thank you so much, Romain. Andreea, also the same question for you. What do you think is the most pressing challenge we have at our hands now?
Thank you, Saskia. Thank you for having me part of this conversation. I think that's a very important question. But before giving you an answer to that, I'd like all of us to do an exercise, because I think very often we tend to really focus on challenges and the things that are not going so well, and we immediately rush to get to a response. What if we were to have a more optimistic view of things and really try to think, how do we want the future workforce to look in Europe? And what if that would be really, the future of work in Europe is one where highly talented workers are driving innovation, inclusiveness, and global competitiveness. And I think starting like that, you might think that's naive to think like that in a world that is just changing so quickly. But I think that will force us to really think about what are the actions that we need to take today to get to the future that we envision. So, maybe back to your question, I think it is really the biggest challenge that we have now is managing to gap in a sustainable way that gap between the skills that the workforce currently has and the needs of the businesses that are trying to innovate and be competitive. And I think it was really refreshing to see that the Draghi report has highlighted skills and talent as one of the pillars of European competitiveness. And there's also a conversation to be had around what we mean with competitiveness, because I think we oftentimes think about it in terms of price competitiveness. And when you think about it like that, it's about things like unit labor cost. And that kind of drives us to thinking about labor as a cost. And I think that's, that will not help us to reach, to drive innovation and economic growth. So I think across Europe, we need to shift a little bit culturally how we think about the workforce, not as a cost, but as human capital. And as one of the most important assets that we have to drive innovation and to make sure that Europe thrives in the new AI economy.
Thank you so much, Andreea. And Saskia, then turning to you, as you're the special envoy for the digital skills here in Belgium, how prepared are our European businesses to deal with the cost, perhaps, and even the consequences that the digital skills gap lays at our feet?
Well, first things first, what are we talking about? Because everybody is now shouting since 2011 about digital skills. And if I would ask the definition to each of you on what you understand by the words digital skills, I would get different answers. It goes from the high experts, and now from Europe we hear cyber and AI, and everything needs to be focused in cyber and AI. But being multilingual is for me a digital skill. Yeah. Having the right human competences, knowing that only 25% of the cyber competences we need are technology competences, and all the rest is, like they say in Dutch, gezond boerenverstand, is how can you reflect how the bad guys or girls will start moving. So first things first, we need to get the definition right. And it's much more than techies, and it's much more than technology, and I hate the word soft skills. It's not soft at all, but we need people with human skills. Mm. And then I come back to second point is our leadership in our organizations. To come to the answer to your question, I had hoped that the pandemic would help me to get. Excuse me, people, sir. If you have a blue suit and brown shoes, don't take it personally. But working in technology, most of the people in the room are male with blue suits and brown shoes. So any comparison is obviously completely by accident. Don't take it. But I had hoped that on the leaderships before COVID, we were placed by seniority. Yeah. You've got 5 years, good. You go to senior. You go 10 years, you go to the first floor, you get a team. You go 20 years, you go to the second floor, second window, bigger parking spot, and an assistant. And then COVID came, the world changed, COVID was over, and they put the same suits and the same shoes at the same floor in the same meeting room. So we need urgently stop talking about SMEs and industries. You need to evolve, and the people have to go for lifelong learning. I fully agree that we need to create a culture of lifelong learning, and particularly in Belgium, we are very bad in it, versus the Scandinavian countries, for example. But please pay attention on what kind of leadership we have in our organizations. And I'm not talking about the CEO. I hear creativity and innovation, and that's all different. And we need to have a vision, but somebody has to execute it. And somebody has to pull all the pieces of the future workforce together, knowing that we are not going to make a career anymore based on a diploma. So you already forget the start of your career will not be a diploma. And even if you have a diploma, then you will only start learning. So the whole world is changed, but my biggest worry, and that's why the slowness in the digital transformation for me, for the industry, is that we forgot to revamp and re-inspire and reschedule the blue suits and the brown shoes on the first floor.
Yeah, we don't have any young talent at this panel today, talking about talent.
But it doesn't fit in the recruitment strategy. I've been working for a Swedish company, and I wanted to have an internship in my management team, even for the Swedes who normally are very innovative and disruptive. It took me 6 months to explain why I put somebody in my management team who didn't have 15 years of international marketing and sales experience. I mean, that's not what I needed. So it is again changing the mind shift. But if you want to have young people, or in management level, or in the organization, then you need to change the culture of the organization.
Yeah, get them on board. Romain, do you have a young board at Criteo?
Do you have it?
A young board? Hello?
One thing that's very interesting when you work in a tech company is that actually you are surrounded by those bright and brilliant young people creating technology. And the good thing is that the ones that we see now have these dual skills. They have the people skills, the soft skills, but they also have the technological acumen expertise. And what is super interesting is to see when those two combine, the great things that they're able to do and the things that they care about. There's been a transformation in the workforce with generation, what's the letter, X, Z, Y? I never remember which one is which, but the ones who are socially aware. Yeah. They really care, and they're bringing this into the way they work and what they build. And so it's very interesting because with AI, we often look at things like, for example, Americans are imposing their values on us. The Chinese and the Chinese Communist Party is controlling what information AIs are going to give. And I think that once again, I want to also bring a note of optimism, is that we have an opportunity to actually put our own European values into the AIs that we develop. And it means that we can teach our AIs and force them actually to have notions of fairness, of equity, of diversity, in a way that reflects the values of the people who are building it. So really important is actually to get those young people, those coming with a fresh mind and with the expertise to actually build the stuff, actually letting them build, and then making sure that what they build reflects the values that we want for our own future.
Thank you so much. Andreea, do you want to respond to that? Do you agree with that? How can we harness that new talent?
Well, you know, I'll give an example maybe from our day-to-day, and I've also started as a junior part of my department. And when I started, I mean, it is the legal department, so as you can imagine, there's a lot of suits as well. But ever since ever since I've joined, there's been this incentive to think about including the younger generation. So we've had this program set up from a couple of years ago, where we have juniors joining our team, and they're included, in decision making that we have part as broader team. That just to mention an example from my day to day. But I think more broadly in terms of attracting new talent, there's a lot of inspiring that I think we still need to do. I think a lot of young people today are still kind of figuring out what they want to do, how the future looks like. And when you read the media, it's not very optimistic, as going back to my initial point, it's not very optimistic. And if you try to picture yourself in the future as a young person who's just joining the workforce, it's hard. It's hard, and I think we need to acknowledge that, and I think we need to help accompany them, and we need to spend that time in terms of coaching, thinking what are the skills that they need, what are the practical skills, but beyond that, there's a broader conversation to be had with these generations.
Yeah, thank you so much. Saskia, how can policymakers ensure that the benefits of digital transformation reach everyone in our society, that we don't leave anyone out?
Well, we first have to realize, and normally I'm the optimist, but I'm always starting with a negative.
Good.
46% of the Belgians who work do not necessarily have the right basic digital skills. So it means that they have a risk to be excluded from healthcare, finance, job markets, education, whatever. So there should be a certain sense of urgency in the question. There are possibly 3 reasons. First can be financially. I can't afford it. Families of 5 having 5 smartphones, but there it stops. It can be because they don't want. Okay, that's their right. Or it can be because they do not have the right competences. Dear policymakers, I just ask you 2 things. Because you have done a lot of efforts in getting digital skills on top of the agenda. But it's a little bit, if I compare policymakers and I compare it with the business, then you're working in silos. There is a policy making for A, for B, for C, for D, for E, for F. And preferable, the timelines do not always fit on each other. And the content is not necessarily aligned. So just put yourself at the seat of the executor. It's becoming very difficult because it's on top of. So please keep on the focus on the priority, but please align transversal. Just make one policy, and I do realize it's complex because we go from ethical to cyber to AI to cloud to whatever. But keep in mind, 46%. We don't have a choice. We need to include them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is. We have a great ecosystem in Europe on what I call non-formal education. Yeah. Because I'm a boomer. That my generation is very clear. I'm a boomer. I'm born. I went to school. I started working. And since we have now a government, I will still continue to work a little bit longer. And then I will start enjoying life. But that's not the same for my kids. They're all born. They went to school. Okay. Check. But then after school, they said, now I want to travel and see the world. Because I've worked a lot. And then they came back and they say, now I want to do something completely different than the first studies. To starting with an organization or a company which has nothing to do with the studies they've done. Now for me as a boomer, it's a little bit wizzy-waggy. But it means that our formal educations are still made for the boomers. But we have created a fantastic ecosystem, and DigiConnect has also put it on a platform which is called the Digital Skills and Jobs Platform for all European countries. We have thousands of great initiatives on non-formal education. But the problem is we get money to make the platform. Yeah. And then there is no money anymore. So the platform dies. And then we go asking money again to create another platform until the money is over. And then we need money to communicate what exists. And it's as good to make a policy on shouting of the roof that it's important, but please help me to give us the means to communicate all good stuff we have. marketing and communication, like said one of the speakers, is not a cost, it's the basics.
Yeah.
Help us to do some more marketing and communication of the good stuff that exists, because we need to inspire all citizens and bring them in contact with the solutions in order to solve the problem of e-inclusivity. Time out.
Yeah, thank you so much. Romain, Andrea, and Saskia, thank you so much.
Sorry.